In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the federal government admitted its efforts to provide housing to victims was slow and inefficient.
They made a promise to improve the process in the future to better prepare for possible future natural disasters.
As News 13's Karen Zakalak found out, nearly 20 years later, some storm victims here in the mountains are frustrated, saying nothing has changed.
Angry. FEMA has done nothing, not absolutely nothing for these people.
Since Helene, we've heard disappointment and frustration from some over the agency meant to help after a natural disaster.
How hard has the FEMA process been for you?
It's been rough and mentally stressful.
It makes me sick. It makes you not have faith in our government.
But some, like Lonnie Bemek, have a different perspective.
This is New Orleans.
She was in New Orleans right after Katrina and was also living in Asheville during Helene.
There was like a part of me that felt ready for something like that, but then also it was kind of like re-traumatizing.
Bemek says she noticed a difference in response immediately, saying in New Orleans, the scary moments without food, water, and power lasted several months. After Helene, it only lasted a couple of days.
We did have that period of time, but much quicker than New Orleans. We were getting shipments and resources and rations and water, and I think so there wasn't the same amount of looting.
She believes FEMA's process has gotten better since Katrina.
The response felt really complicated. It felt really like a lot of hoops to jump through, not really adequately like addressing the needs of the community. And honestly, I felt like in this situation, FEMA felt really organized and prompt and timely.
We wanted to compare the numbers, knowing New Orleans is about 4 times larger than Asheville, and the hurricane there caused far more damage. In the first few months after Katrina, FEMA provided rent money for nearly 500,000 people, hotels for 52,000, and trailers for 36,000, at a cost of more than $100 billion. Here in Western North Carolina, FEMA has given rental assistance to 700 people, hotel stays to 9,000, and trailers to 88, with the total price tag so far of around $300 million.
In a sense, it's much more dire here because people haven't gone away. But by and large, they're still, staying close by. It's cold. There's not adequate shelter, and so I think there is a really strong case that FEMA really needs to take extraordinary measures to get these trailers in.
Mark Van Landingham has a home in Asheville, but also lived through Katrina and has studied the storm's impact for years.
When should people start expecting that FEMA response to really step up that we saw sort of years down the road in New Orleans?
Now, and I think that citizens and local leadership should really be turning up the heat, on FEMA.
FEMA released documents like this one following Katrina saying the federal government's capability to provide housing solutions to the displaced Gulf Coast population has proved to be far too slow, bureaucratic, and inefficient, and promised to do better.
Years later, does it feel like that lesson was learned and that things have changed in terms of the response here from Helene?
Not to the degree that they should have.
We asked FEMA repeatedly for an interview or a written response on these concerns, but haven't heard back. Now, just yesterday, local leaders said that FEMA's preferred housing response is not trailers, but instead leasing rental units in the area. Karen Zakalak, News 13.